This edition of Behind the Action is brought to you by Vite Ramen, the instant ramen with 27 grams of complete protein, vitamins, and minerals to keep you playing at your best. Learn more at the end of the video. Meta. It is described as the general strategies and gameplay trends most pro players adhere to. In a meta dominated by triple tank, triple support compositions, or GOATs, you may think the Chengdu Hunters are the wackiest Overwatch team in the world for running Wrecking Ball triple DPS. But what if we told you there exists another team with compositions you'll swear are ripped right from a quick play match? What if we told you that this team dominated Europe's Open division and then proceeded to crush Contenders Trials, losing only a single match along the way? But more importantly, what if we told you that this team is headed all the way to Contenders, to play against the best Europe has to offer without even scrimming? It sounds almost too outlandish to be true, but this is the very real story of a team whose Open division success came straight from ditching what is considered meta and playing strictly what they're good at. This is the story of Clockwork Vendetta.
We can walk up, freeze, or icicle as much as he feels like. D-Mac on Brucein, but he does pay for it with his life. The Molten Core out yet again. So much down! It's a 4K with the Molten Core! The lava out, he wanted the hammer kill.
And we know that once you get into range of Moose and Ricky, and I don't think I've seen Moose miss a hook so far this round.
That's
was
amazing.
Absolutely, and that's knocked him out of the sky. Moose is going fishing again. He's got the bait!
Oh my god!
That's crazy!
What, are you kidding me?
They lost the D.Va though. Somebody's gonna get there. They just get there in time, but they're already down Kara. They're already down a D.Va as Mech as well. Engineer doesn't really care about his turn going down because there's a blizzard out and they can't get on! Clockwork Vendetta 2-0 and stays in front of everyone in Trials.
What comprises the foundation of the Vendetta comp are three key heroes: Torbjorn, Orisa, and Roadhog, who are played at all times, pending an emergency swap to stall of course. These three heroes are often accompanied by a complementary DPS in Mei or Doomfist, a Zen or Mercy, and an Ana in the support lineup, with the swap potential of a Widowmaker or Hanzo. According to Clockwork, while most of the heroes by themselves are not specifically good against GOATs, together they can create a massive threat with combinations of Halt, Hook, Freeze, and Overload. Additionally, the comp benefits from a high level of sustain, with Torbjorn's Overlord granting additional health and Mei's Cryo Freeze recovering HP, both of which can be used to bait out abilities such as stuns that are integral in the GOATs meta. We reached out to Clockwork Vendetta's captain, Minimi, who stated the following, quote, "When you put all of the heroes together, you get a very fascinating synergy that didn't really get that much attention yet. Basically, every hero helps the other to keep sustained and deal surprisingly high damage as well." While comparing what they run to other bunker comps, Minimi says that the key difference is consistency. A lot of times you have a Bastion or Widowmaker run with bunker comps. Both heroes can deal insane amounts of damage or have very high pick potential, but this is something that can be avoided if played correctly. The Vendetta comp, on the other hand, has extremely consistent damage across the board. Mei is there to dish out insane crowd control and is complemented by Torb, who has strong levels of both short and long range damage output. You basically control the speed of the game and force your opponent to make a mistake. With that said, let's take a look at a few examples where they've been able to execute their strategy and tactfully force their opponents to play into their hands.
This point to stop them from winning this map, and Clockwork Vendetta go to 3-0 now.
Here we see Young and Beautiful, freshly relegated from Contenders down to Trials, on the quad tank after struggling most of the match to deal with Vendetta's bunker comp. With ultimates online, this is their final chance to capture Junkertown B. Clockwork Vendetta attempts to combo the ultimates of Orisa's Supercharger with Torb's Molten Core to essentially make the payload a death trap. Minimi rotates to shield Engineer and give him line of sight of the Supercharger. Additionally, he gives himself a wider field of fire instead of restricting himself to the smaller corridor where he could easily be rushed down by the quad tank composition. Young and Beautiful is forced to use Coalescence to focus down Minimi in the Supercharger because it goes through his shield. The rest of Clockwork Vendetta falls back into different rooms. Because Young and Beautiful is playing spread out and Krondop is on low health, They're unable to overwhelm Engineer and he completes his ult animation. Moose and Ricky need to make the play to save the point, so they rush out of the room, causing the rest of Y and B to follow in pursuit. This causes Krondop to walk through the molten core and die. Even though Brussen is able to escape to the safety of the Winston bubble, this allows Ricky to use his Blizzard to keep pressure on the payload, alternating offensive ultimates defensively. Speaking with Akshon, Minimi said, quote, "Both DPS ults are mainly about zone control. Both Orisa and Hog can abuse the ulted zones by simply playing inside of the ults. That way, both DPS ults can also be used as, quote, defensive support ults. As a result, Yikids gets frozen and falls only 5% away from Grav. Brussen dies shortly after, and the remaining members of Young and Beautiful just don't have the damage to finish off the rest of Clockwork Vendetta, leading to a second point hold. It wasn't until week 4 of Trials that Clockwork Vendetta was really put to the test, when Eternal Academy started running double Sniper Pharah. Despite losing a close series 3-1, Eternal Academy exploited certain weaknesses in the Vendetta comp, denying several members value. With no single hero packing enough burst damage to take out a pocketed Pharah by themselves, Zeal's Pharah is able to take full advantage. By playing at a distance and forcing Clockwork Vendetta to awkwardly fight into them, Eternal Academy greatly reduces the effectiveness of Engineer, Ricky, and Moose, who shine in closer engagements. Additionally, Hardest on Ashe frequently sees the dynamite get big value due to how long it takes to reposition bunker. In order for Clockwork Vendetta to take this point, they need to get into a favorable position where they can close the distance. Vendetta has navigated to the left-hand side of the tower and are closing to entering a shield poke barrier war with Eternal Academy. The biggest problem they face is not having enough shield break of their own to outright win, and Eternal Academy has much more burst. As you can see, Zytor has popped the Valk to provide more sustain and damage for his team, and everyone but Ricky on Mei is grouped together. If you look closely, you can see the effects from Ricky's alternate fire as he is able to find the opening Clockwork Vendetta so desperately needs with a headshot on Ashe. While the Resurrect does come out, it leaves Askoff super vulnerable, and Roadhog confirms the kill while Monk Mutta is able to clean up the rest. So while Clockwork Vendetta did end up winning this game and the series, the groundwork has been laid for a potential way to counter the infamous Vendetta comp.
Complete, and Clockwork Vendetta managed to clutch out Eichenwald. What a game.
Here, we can see how Crescent Dew is able to utilize the map geometry of Oasis City Center to overwhelm the bunker of Clockwork Vendetta by giving them no space to move, setting up crossfires, and spamming them non-stop. By overwhelming Mini-Me's shield, it creates possibilities for one-shots onto Clockwork Vendetta's squishies. Once Clockwork Vendetta commits to a position that they want to approach from, Crescent Dew is able to hone in and focus their fire. For instance, right here, Clockwork Vendetta pushes mid and gets nuked by damage-boosted Pharah rockets, Zen Orbs, and Storm Arrows. Look at how quickly not just Mini-Me, but his barrier as well, are burned down and deleted. With no main tank for the push, having already used Res, Vendetta is forced to back out, conceding more % on the board for Crescent Dew. Throughout the entire map, Clockwork Vendetta is unable to get in and play the game they want to. On Oasis University, a map Vendetta's entrenchment could be utilized to better effect, yet again Crescent Dew is able to overwhelm simply by having greater firepower, superior positioning due to the team's mobility, and better range. With so much damage coming their way, it can force Monk Mutta to use nade on himself and his tanks to keep them up instead of using it on the enemy. Not to mention the fact that the Pharah's damage angles are going to be uncontested, keeping Monk Mutta on the defensive. With the lack of mobility exploited, dealing with the Pharah would require Monk Mutta to swap off of Ana and onto a Widowmaker, but that would also mean giving up a ton of sustain. So is Vendetta comp really the answer to GOATs? Yes and no. Clockwork Vendetta's manager is quoted as saying, "I'll be honest with you. The fact that we came this far with no scrims and no coach even surprises me. I'd say the power of friendship and skill on each hero, as well as our synergy, got us this far, and we're sure that the only thing that can stop us is a team with a really good coach." Bunker in general is very strong against GOATs due to its high damage output from defendable positions. With this Mei Torb variant, a well-timed wall can block off the enemy's main tank, resulting in certain death. Against open division teams who may lack the experience needed to adequately deal with such a bizarre composition, it's easy to see why Clockwork Vendetta hasn't quite been figured out. As showcased, Clockwork Vendetta's comp can punish poor positioning and create it. Against contenders level competition, everything can change. Better ult management, better positioning, better focus, better preparation. So while it's certainly strong against open division and trials teams, it has not been adequately tested against higher divisions. One thing is for sure though, and that's regardless of their performance in contenders, it's crazy to think that a team of friends who stick to heroes they're good at have gotten as far as they have. Rest assured though, if this comp, run by a team that doesn't even scrim and only recently added a coach, can come this far and compete against the best teams in Europe, we won't be seeing the last of it. It was, after all, an open division team that set the meta for the course of a year and changed pro Overwatch forever. Their original name? GOATS. Fight Ramen started as a dream by twin brothers to play better with better nutrition. Now, they're a small team making the world's first nutritionally complete instant ramen, loaded with tons of protein, vitamins, and minerals to keep you feeling and playing your best. All for less than the cost of a fast food meal. Use our code AKSHON10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase. Check out the link in the description below for more information.